live, but I'm going to wait a little bit because last time I started and then cut myself off. Okay, now I think we're live. Yay! All right. Hello, everybody. Jacob and HP Holo here for our second Facebook Live chat. Yay! We've got a bunch. Oh, hey, yeah, you can talk too. Yeah, we've got a bunch of questions to answer for you guys, and so we're gonna hop to it soon. Before that, though, some quick announcements. If you like pocket-sized apocalypses, the mass market paperback edition of the Gordian Protocol is out as of this week, so totally support your local bookstores and buy our books.
I like that you characterized it as a pocket-sized apocalypse.
Yeah, and you don't always want a big one. It's an apocalypse you can fit in your purse. We have a buddy somewhere. Yep, there she is. Well, Nova's off screen, and she says hi to everybody.
She's roaming around.
Yep. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a link in the comments for anyone who wants to check it out. Also, in addition to this wonderful Facebook Live, we have another one coming up hold on, I have notes. May 13th at 8 p.m. on Bane's Facebook page. Jacob and David are going to be doing a short reading.
David Weber.
David Weber. I guess I should specify.
But New York Times bestselling author David Weber and the other guy will be talking about.
Those dudes are going to be doing a reading from the Gordian Protocol and also answering fan questions and whatnot afterwards. So if you want a chance to talk to David and the other guy, David Weber and the other guy, you should totally come to the Bane Facebook page and hang out.
I feel very comfortable being referred to as the other guy when David is around.
You're the main guy to me, Jacob. Oh, hold it. I got to take a hair moment.
Are you going to explain the hair first?
Jacob gave himself what he calls his COVID cut, which is just his really low maintenance, really short hair. And I kind of hate it, but it also feels really nice. It feels like just little kitten fur on the top of his head, and I just want to touch it.
Well, it has the advantage of something that I can do myself and not have to go to a place that is closed because of social distancing now.
Yeah, he doesn't have connections like I do. I've got a hairdresser in the family, and so, yeah, I'm lucky that way. Well, I guess technically he's in your family, too. You just like simple hair, and you don't dye yours crazy colors.
Yeah, I think he would be overkill for my hair needs.
I'm just trying to picture you with little blue floof right here. No, it doesn't work on you.
No, that works on you.
You got your bow ties. That's the only fanciness you need.
Yes.
There we go. We should probably get back to the actual point of this video.
Yes, we probably should.
Okay, so you know what? Okay, yeah, I'm going to post the links in a second because I want to keep talking. But all right, so earlier this week, we asked you guys to give us questions, and a bunch of you did. And so we're going to start answering those questions. The first one is a little easy one. Comes from Sherry Som, and she asks, how many books do you have out? Which is a good question, especially for those who are just stumbling upon this page and have no idea what you're looking at here. So we currently have 7 books out. The first 6 are books that we self-published. There's The Dragons of Jupiter, which, by the way, you can get for free if you join our mailing list. I will also post that link. The second was Time Reavers. The third set was Bane of the Dead, Throne of the Dead, and Disciple of the Dead. And then we had, my book, The Wizard's Way. Well, technically our book, but it's the main one I contributed to. And then the most recent release,
of course, 20-25% of that one. Yeah. So you definitely deserve top billing on that novel.
But then, of course, there is the most recent one, which is traditionally published by Bane Books and is the Gordian Protocol. By the end of this year and early next year, though, we're going to have more out. The Valkyrie Protocol, which is the sequel to Gordian, is going to be coming out October 6th, unless the COVID apocalypse changes things. And then
I'm pretty sure it's coming out October 6th.
And then we also have a brand new series that you will hear more about at some point, where we're currently working on the first 4 books in it and plan on dropping them all at the same time.
And roughly. The first drafts of 2 of those are done.
They're itty bitty and fun and crazy, and they're coming along nicely.
They're like long novellas, short novels. It's kind of bordering on that length.
They're itty bitty quick reads.
But they're the 2 that we have first drafts of are very fun.
No. She's This is Nova, and she's about to knock our microphone off if I don't stop her. So, but yeah, so there's plenty of books coming in your future. And I'm going to post the link to our website in a second so you can check those out if you want to. The next question comes from Adam Melendez and every other fan we've had.
Is this the question?
And the question is, will there be a sequel to The Dragons of Jupiter? And I got to preface this by saying I am with you guys. I have been on your side, and I have been harassing Jacob to write this sequel on your behalf for the past 4 years, past a lot of years. And so I'm just going to hand it over to Jacob and post my links and just meaningfully sulk over here because I don't have a sequel to this book yet. So have at it. Why don't we have a sequel, Jacob?
Okay, well, first, The Dragons of Jupiter, while it does stand alone, is intended as a trilogy starter. And there are basically 2 more novels worth of story for that trilogy. And in terms of the major beats of those 2 theoretical novels, they're all planned out. The major beats are, but none of the detail design has been done, which would, in terms of how I prefer to write, would have to be done before I would start writing. And that is drinking my water.
Nova just claimed your water. It's done. You can have mine, Jacob.
Okay,
it's got
right.
nice. It's got fruity little flavors in it.
All right. So it's something that I definitely want to write. It's a story that I want to tell. But where it falls in the queue in terms of other stories, so there's the Gordian Division series is the big it's the big thing right now, because I'm working with David Weber. We've turned in the manuscript for the second book. It's going to be published in October. We're working on the basically the kind of trajectory for the series. Basically like the next 2 or 3 books, kind of looking forward, doing some detailed design on the third book before we dive into that, and making sure that the publisher is a-okay with the path that we want to take with that. So that's where my focus is right now, is working with, the New York Times bestselling author that I am learning a ton from, and also working with Bain on, kind of between David and, Bain, kind of learning a lot about writing and fine-tuning my craft. And I'm learning a ton from this. And so this is the best place for me to be putting my effort, my energy right now, is in the Gordian Division series. And it's a series that I love writing in. And I'm really looking forward to starting on the third book once we have that kind of, the plot summary sketched out and approved. And I've got some new characters I'm looking forward to introducing to the series. And we're going to be, exploring new corners of the fictional world and all those cool things. So back to dragons. I want to do it. I do want to do it. It's a story I want to tell, but I need to find a window to do it. And right now I don't have that window, and I don't really see on the horizon where that window would be. But it is a story I want to tell.
We had discussed the possibility of for some of our self-published works that you guys have been asking for sequels for, Time Reavers being the other one. We had discussed the possibility of co-authoring sequels, where, for example, Jacob writes the outline and then I do the first draft, and then we sort of bounce it back and forth. And we are actually going to do that for the sequel to Time Reavers once the current series is launched. But the difference between Time Reavers and Dragons is that Time Reavers is fairly, I would say it's a lot more streamlined, and though there is a technology aspect, it's largely a magic system, whereas
it's very much a magic system.
Dragons requires an attention to technological detail and military detail that I don't have. I mean, look at the Wizard's Way. I solved problems by throwing in sword fighting pugs. I mean, that kind of thing is not going to fly in something like Dragons, and so it's just our skill sets are just so far apart on something like Dragons that the sequel just wouldn't work co-authoring for that particular one. But Mind Reavers is going to be the sequel to Time Reavers, and that's another one that's moving up the pipeline.
I definitely think that our two writing styles will mesh very well with the Time Reavers series, and that's definitely a project that I think will. I anticipate it going well. I think that
I'm looking forward to that one.
The sequel to Dragons of Jupiter is something that I would have to do solo.
That's all Jacob. I'm sorry, I got distracted. It just feels so nice.
My COVID cut, which
like I missed your long hair because it was cute.
Well, I miss it too.
But I also just it's like. It's so comforting. It's like touching velvet.
So just a little bit more detailed about my COVID cut and why it's so short is that I like it really short on the sides. And I wasn't going to blend the top because this is just a do-it-yourself haircut. So I went with a really short guard and just went with it. So I have short hair on top now.
Yep.
And once, I can go and have a professional cut my hair again, I'll grow this out, but until then it's probably going to be pretty short.
I'm glad I have connections, because I'd pondered shaving my head, but I don't know that I pondered doing like a full-on Furiosa cut, but I don't think I can pull that off. And you kind of have to have the motor oil look going and the prosthetic look going too to make it fully work. And I'm not really that. I don't even wear makeup, so I'm not even that attentive to it.
So I think, is there anything else that we need to touch on with Dragons?
I don't think there is with Dragons. We pretty much covered it. I'm still going to harass you though.
I'm fine with this because our fans, it's something that they're definitely very interested in. I wish I had more time, but in terms of the writing, I think my energy is going in the correct place right now, which is the Gordian Division series.
I think so too. All right, our next question is actually more of a me question. Comes from Diane Kitson, and she says, do you use BookBub much, and if so, what do you like about it? The short version of this answer is no. That
was the TLDR.
It requires some explaining. There are different sides to BookBub. As a reader, BookBub, for those who aren't familiar with it, is basically a site that allows you to access discounted books and follow authors and stuff like that. It's an enormous discount site. Oh, we got a comment. Hey, I know you. Hey, Putong.
Hello, Putong.
I can't wait till cons are back on so we can see you again. We miss you. But
it's been half a year since we've been at a con. It's been longer than half a year.
Yeah, it's been a while. But anyway, I don't use BookBub as a reader because I already have more books than I'll ever read, and so I just kind of avoid sites that make me impulse buy books, unless I'm looking for audiobooks, in which case I do really like Chirp Books, which is BookBub's audiobook branch, and you can get like regular price $30-$40 audiobooks for $1.99 or something like that. It's great. And so sometimes if I see an audiobook that just really catches my eye, I'll use it then. But generally I don't, just because I already have more books than I'm ever going to read. As an author, of course, authors can buy ad space on BookBub. They can buy space in their mailing lists. And one day I do intend to explore BookBub ads, which are basically ads that appear on their site and on their mailing lists. I just haven't really learned that ad platform yet. And I guess the main reason why I differentiate is because we have readers watching, but we also have authors to be watching, and so you get to see a little bit of marketing in what I do. But there's also an option for authors to run special promos in their like when you have, say, a 99-cent book deal, you can run a special promo in their mailing list. And we have not done one of those, primarily because they're cost prohibitive for us. They're really for authors who want to market themselves. I find that they're really most productive when you have a long series that you're trying to market, where you put the first book on discount and market it to BookBub, and then you really make bank on the sell through, where people like your first book and then they buy the subsequent books in your series. Our problem is that we don't have that many series, and the one series that we do have is really, really niche. It's giant robots fighting in space, and it's awesome. Its fans love it, but it's also like anime-inspired giant robots, which is not a really huge genre. And
I wrote what I wanted to write at the time.
But authors who have used it and have been able to get into the promotions, because they're really competitive. We've applied before and never been accepted. For those who have gotten in, though, they say it's awesome. So it is recommended, even though we haven't used it. So that's it for BookBub.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, let's see here. Oh yeah, I missed one. Oops, sorry. This one comes from Jerry Rodriguez, and she asks, "Who is your favorite fantasy author to read?" You want to go, Jacob?
All right, so that would have to be Terry Pratchett.
But I told you can't say Terry Pratchett, because we always say Terry Pratchett always, and so Terry Pratchett is off the table. Though I guess you can say why you like Terry Pratchett, for those who haven't said. Terry Pratchett is one of my favorites too, by the way. I love him. I cried a little bit on the day he died. I cried a lot.
It's just there's nothing quite like them.
The
like
Discworld novels,
like his Discworld novels. I really haven't, come across novels that just give me that same feeling, that Terry Pratchett feeling.
They're a perfect blend of good-natured satire and genuine humor and fantasy that I've never seen anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And like I aspire to write like Terry Pratchett. Like he's my like golden standard of authorship, but I don't think I'm smart enough.
He's
I'll get there maybe one day, but he's just insightful.
Yes, there's definitely that he had very he would look at something familiar from like a different perspective, and you'd be like, huh, I never thought of that. I wonder why I never thought of that. And the reason is you're not Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that amazes me about Terry Pratchett, I forget what he had in his final days. It wasn't Alzheimer's, but it was something that similarly affected his intellect.
Was his shrinking? It was like a contraction.
I can't remember, but anyway, my point is Terry Pratchett wrote better books when he had Alzheimer's or Alzheimer's equivalent than some people do with fully working brains, and it's just his writing is astonishing. But we took Terry Pratchett off the list because we always say him. So now, Jacob, who is your other favorite fantasy author? Of course, you don't read a lot of fantasy.
I don't read a lot of fantasy, but I really enjoyed Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm. I've never read that. I'm going to lose some nerd cred. I've never read Wheel of Time.
Well, it's a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some beefy books, and there are quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And I was primarily reading them. You have to be. I would have to be like in the mood.
Yeah.
For that sort of book to, if I were to like go into, something similar nowadays, because they're really rich in detail, and so you kind of have to just accept that the pacing isn't really going to be breakneck with them. And there's a lot of world building, a lot of detailed descriptions.
Oh, I think I might like them actually.
And
I love detailed descriptions.
And I remember that for me, of all the fantasy series that I've read, or not just series, but just books in general, the ones that gave me the clearest mental picture of the world, of the characters, of the places, those were the Wheel of Time books. And it was just it was a very vivid, living, breathing world. It was very detailed. In like one book, you'd get to learn, part of the world, and then, next book, okay, now we're starting to show you a little bit more, and there's just, man, there were so many cool mysteries that he would set up that would have payoffs eventually. And sometimes it would take a while to get to the payoff, or the reveal about there was this mysterious thing that happened. I'm just going to pick a number in book 4, and you don't really figure out, what exactly happened to like book 10 or something.
I don't have the patience for that. Never mind. I'll go find the Cliff Notes. Is there going to be a TV series? I'll watch the TV series.
They've been making a lot of stuff into.
I feel like I heard about
I think
one,
I heard,
and
but
then it didn't happen
I'll if they do make something, I'll certainly watch it. I would be definitely interested in seeing that, but I don't know. I haven't been keeping up. You hear about so many, series in production nowadays that it all just sort of blends together for me, and I wait for it to get released.
And a lot of the entertainment news is like, oh, this thing has been optioned, which doesn't really mean anything in terms of whether it will actually happen or not. And so I kind of don't pay attention to shows and get excited about them until I see trailers for them or release dates and things like that. So, is it my
turn? I believe I've rambled enough at a sufficient length, so go ahead.
Okay, mine was actually kind of hard because I find that I tend to have series that I like or individual books more so than authors, because occasionally, a lot of my favorite authors, like I'll really like these particular series, but then I'll encounter this one other book and be like, oh my gosh, how did this same writer write this book? How is this sequel this much worse than the brilliant original? And so it took some effort to find a particular author that I like. But
I think you get angrier at books than I do.
I
I just stop. This one's not working.
I get to a point in a book where it's like, well, I made it this far. I may as well finish it so I can properly critique it. And I tend to get angry at books and movies when they don't fulfill their potential. Like, I don't care if a movie is bad or if a book is bad. In fact, I love it if it's bad. But if it starts out really cool and then just does not develop itself well, I can't stand it. Like, don't even get me started on Snow White and the Huntsman, or there's one of the Oz movies, the one with James Franco in it. I can't even remember.
I don't know. All I remember is that you were so angry when you came back from the movie theater. You went.
I got angry at Fantastic Beasts too. I remember that one. That's the sequel to Fantastic Beasts. Oh my gosh, I got so mad. I had a Bailey's, and then I do not remember anything that happened after that night. I just remember that I couldn't find my pants at some point. I was just wandering around the house, ranting angrily about everything I hated about Fantastic Beasts 2, and somehow lost my pants, and then fell asleep. And that's all I remember.
I think you were angrier at that movie than I was at The Last Jedi. I think that's the maddest that I've ever been at a movie.
That's a whole other video. Don't get me started on Fantastic Beasts 2. Anyway, the authors that I like. All right. I have the book here because no one reads this series but me. And okay, so there is a children's series called The Edge Chronicles by, I got to get positioned correctly, by Paul Stewart and illustrated by Chris Riddle. And I think I'm the only person in the world who has ever read it. Well, I can't be because it got 10 books, but it's a really interesting series for its world building. It has this wholly original world. It doesn't really become a standout until, say, book 2 or 3. Book 1 is just this kind of main character is outcast and goes on an adventure and runs into some monsters kind of thing, and it's just pretty rote storytelling. But then you get to book 2 and book 3, and different elements of the world become a lot more apparent. And by book 4, it's just, oh my gosh, it's just so good. There's like floating cities and weird words and crazy monsters, and the illustrations too are huge. I love Chris Riddle's illustrations. They just have this sort of charming grotesquerie about them that's well, I mean, it's just there's something about, he uses a lot of hatching and a lot of ink work, and there's just something really strangely appealing about how weird and yet how pleasant his art looks. I love Chris Riddle so much. But this particular series is a really, it's a very rugged fantasy series, I would say. There's sky pirates, there's weird monsters, I love it. But anyway, again, it's the Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddle. It's one of those series that I actually haven't finished. There are some books where I love them so much. Well, here's the thing. I will take forever to finish them. Like, I just finished Empire of Silence by Chris Ruocchio, and I've literally been reading it a year. First of all, because it's enormous, but second of all, because I've enjoyed it so much, I just want to stay in that world. And that's very much the case with the Edge Chronicles too. There's a 10th book that I haven't read solely because I don't want it to end. And I actually haven't read the last Narnia book either for that reason. But now there's a sequel series to the Edge Chronicles, so I can read book 10 now. So, but yeah, I'm happy. I love this series. Everybody read it. It's great. I believe we have one more question, and then that will be it for this AMA. So this one comes from Richard Morgan. Hi, Richard. We love you. And this is actually from our last Facebook Live. He asked it, and then we somehow missed it in the course of everything. And so this is a very belated answer. But his question is, what character out of each of your upcoming books do you relate to the most? And so let's see. Who wants to start?
Well, you're looking at me, so I suppose I'll.
Yeah, I guess there's not much of a choice. You want to start, Nova? She says no.
Yeah, that sounded like a no to me.
Nova's not happy. I gave her something like a bath today, and she, nah. We do not speak of baths.
All right, so the Valkyrie Protocol. I'm gonna have to go with Rybert. So, in terms of Rybert's background, there's not a whole lot of similarity there, or his occupation. There's not a whole lot of similarity there. I mean, we're dealing with a historian, time traveler turned,
he's kind of a math nerd, though. Like, you got to be a little bit of a math nerd to deal with time travel in this universe.
He is good with science. He's not. He does. Yeah, he does have a strong science background, which is necessary for time travelers in the setting. That he has a minor in what
chronometric physics.
Chronometric physics.
I actually remembered that. Go
yes, you did. Yes. That's impressive. And so he's a historian that's been turned into a pretty high profile police agent. Cispol Gordian division, dealing with time travel and transdimensional crimes. But in terms of his attitude, a lot of times when I write a character, that I take an aspect of myself and I exaggerate it. And that can sometimes form, the core kind of voice for a character. And there's Rybert. Initially when you meet him, he's kind of timid, but he reaches a certain boiling point where he's had it, and he's not going to take it anymore. And sometimes I get like that. Mm-hmm. And so,
Business Jacob is scary, y'all. I've been privy to Business Jacob as he's been working from home, and he's an entirely different Jacob.
Well, I do sometimes, need to be forceful in my day job.
Mm-hmm. That's a good word for it. Terrifying.
It's no. I wouldn't call myself
Not legitimately terrifying. You're assertive.
Okay. Yes.
I was close. I had to do it again. Sorry. Okay. I'm just gonna keep my hands over here.
So that sort of like pressure cooker ready to ready to pop. And it's also I probably have of all the Gordian division characters, I enjoy writing a lot of them, but I think I enjoy writing Rybert's dialogue the most. I'd say that his dialogue I probably have the most fun with, and most of the time I get to keep things my way. Occasionally, David will say, "You need to pull that back a little bit," and it's like, okay, fair enough, David. I went a little too far there.
I'm always amused that David has to do that to you because you had to do it to me so much in The Wizard's Way. Like The Wizard's Way is crazy, but it's not even half as crazy as it was before Jacob got nuts.
I did have to rein you in a few places. I think to the
benefit of the novel.
Yes, to the benefit of the novel.
You're not doing any reining in on this new series.
No, I'm not.
Which is a cleverly done segue into my half of this, unless you had more to say.
No, I think I've for this question I've rambled on enough about
Ryber, because that was a good transition and I'm proud of it. Okay, so my upcoming series, I lost my train of thought. If you want to know the full detail about it, I would say watch our last Facebook Live video because I went into complete detail about it. Otherwise, you're going to have no context for this character. But I will do a short.
Why don't you just give a little bit of background about?
I'm going to do a short bit of background. My upcoming series, which does not have a cover or an official title yet, is basically about a bunch of monster hunters who go and hunt monsters and do stupid stuff. I mean, that's the short version. It's inspired by all the monster shows that I watched and loved when I was a kid. So there's little bits of Pokemon and Digimon and Monster Hunter, the Capcom Monster Hunter in there. It's just it's like I threw all of those things in a blender and then dumped them out and then poured all my sauce on them. And anyway,
and your sauce is called the Dazzling Skies.
Yes,
which are, instead of stars in the heavens, there are portals, and they can drop basically anything
which
onto this setting.
The sort of central function of this world. They have these portals. These portals drop junk, and sometimes it's actual junk. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's monsters, and they gotta go kill the monsters, or befriend the monsters, or like try to feed the monsters cookies. Who knows? It's kind of has the spirit of a D&D campaign that way. Also, it's like every nerd thing I love just thrown into one thing. But anyway, the two main characters are Pix and Jazz, and they did not really, I did not intend them this way, but they basically ended up being mine and Jacob's characters from Monster Hunter when we play Monster Hunter together, because I have my own personal headcanon for our characters as we play, which is something, that's something that I've always done when I've played video games. Like when I played Pokemon back in the day, like I had a running storyline completely separate from the game in my head, and that became a lot of the writing that I did in junior high.
I find this very easy to believe about you.
But anyway, so my character, Jazz, her name is short for Jaspertina Red. She is this... How to describe Jazz? There are lots of things I could say about Jazz. I guess the simplest way to describe her is she's basically a self-insert fantasy. she's me if I didn't have to be polite.
She solves problems
with great swords.
Well, she also solves problems in the setting kind of the same way you solve problems with the writing process. And that whatever crazy idea first pops into your head is what you go with.
Yep, that's exactly.
And you go with it with enthusiasm.
Oh yes, Jazz solves problems with hyperactivity and luck. And she's a very sort of just energetic, unbridled character, and she's definitely, writing her has been fun because she's basically maximum me. And it's been a real delight to write that character, and you will meet her at some point this year. Once I imagine,
because we already have 2 of the manuscripts basically done.
I've written the first book. Jacob has written the 4th book. We're working on the middle ones right now. But I have a plan for what is tentatively going to be a 10-book series with the possibility that it can expand out longer. It doesn't have an overarching plot. It's written so that I can basically so that I can play around in the world, more so than focus on the plot. There will be plot. I mean, in as much as these characters are capable of plot. There's
plot.
There is plot. It's simple plot, but it's really about the world and characters.
It's mostly, a fun cast of characters and the adventures that they have.
Yeah.
Or misadventures.
Misadventures is more appropriate. But yeah,
they
Jazz
have some misadventures.
I absolutely relate to Jazz for I guess completely obvious reasons. For those for the few beta readers who have read the story, which by the way have really enjoyed it. So yay, my work was worth it. But I did want to do a modification to this question though, for those that don't have any context for the upcoming books. Which characters from our past books did you relate to the most? And Rybert, I'd say. I mean, we throw Robert out because you've already said him.
Aww.
But let's say from Dragons or Time Reavers or the Seraphim Revival trilogy, who would you say you relate to the most?
Jared.
Oh, I love Jared. He's my favorite.
Jared Dakin.
He's one of my favorites.
From the Seraphim Revival. Back when I wrote the original drafts of that series, and my family members, that was my primary audience, was my family members at the time.
These were like back when you were in college, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. I don't know how many people actually know this, but we actually published our books in reverse order, sort of. Dragons was Jacob's newest book at that time, and then once we released Dragons and it did pretty well, we were like, oh, well, yeah, we have these other books. Let's polish them up and put them out and see what happens. And so Time Reavers he actually wrote just before Dragons, and it was the result of a complete reworking of his writing style. And then the Seraphim Revival he'd written before Time Reavers. And so once we got to the Wizard's Way, things were on track chronologically again.
So yeah, my writing style has kind of evolved. And the order that we've published has actually shown the devolution.
Yeah, there are some reviews that have been like, Jacob has really gotten worse between these books. And it's like,
no.
It's not that.
I wrote the first draft like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And the Time Reavers that we actually released is a lot different from the original too. I think Nicole it wasn't young adult. She was like in college or something, and then I read it and I was like, this is totally a young adult book, Jacob. We need to young adultify it. And anyway.
Jared. So the family members who read it, they just described, they were talking about Jared and Seth. And they said that Seth is who I want to be, and Jared is who I am. and I said, there's some truth to that.
I'm trying to figure out where that comparison's coming from, because like Jared is like an idiot outside of his robot, or not an idiot, but his intellect is significantly increased inside his robot, and you kind of have intellect all the time.
But no, it's that he doesn't really fit in.
I can see that.
Whereas Seth is very much, he knows
an
insider in terms of, he's basically, part of the upper echelon. He's always had that role his entire life, whereas Jared has always been a bit of an outsider.
I can see that.
And that's kind of
he's not even actinized, so that makes sense. I mean, he's from the Earth Nation, yeah.
Which, that's a whole other topic.
That can be another thing.
That's
That
a
could be another
whole
video.
other topic.
Why you should have rewritten it entirely from Jared's point of view. I want a Jared series.
Yeah,
I love him. It's not gonna happen, but I love Jared and I want a whole Jared series. It could be like a little series of comedy novellas or something.
Structurally, if I had to do all over again, I would have done it very differently. But that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, fans have been asking us to continue that series too, so there's your chance.
I know,
That's another
and
one
I
I've
already
actually
answered that question.
Yeah. That's actually another series that we've thrown around the idea of continuing together because I love it.
But I think
I can write giant robots.
The Time Reaver series is, I mean, first of all, we've done, we did the Wizard's Way, as a co-author. We're both working in the Monster Punk novels. In that universe, though we're not really co-authoring. We're kind of
trading,
kind
bouncing
of
ideas
trading
off of each other, and
and
being like, "Hey, can I do this? We don't have a tech Bible, so I'm gonna assume so. I got to come up with a tech Bible."
It's like,
now that we have
Heather,
2.5 books.
How does this part of the settlement? How is it laid out?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? It's like I haven't.
That's actually, to a certain extent, that's kind of intentional. There are certain elements of my world that I do not describe in certain books, solely so that I can describe them and use them to their best effect in later books, which is why you'll sometimes run into areas that are really, really lavishly described, and sometimes you'll run into places where it's like there's a table there and that's it. So, yeah.
So, I think I answered the question with Jared.
It's my turn!
Yes, it's your turn.
All right. So, of my existing books, which is basically one right now, in The Wizard's Way, I think there's a little bit of myself in all of my characters, but I will say that I think that's true of any author.
Yeah. I mean, the voice
except the Lurid Man, because maybe the Lurid Man. He's crazy. I hope there's none of me in Lurid Man, except maybe Cool Fashion
Well,
Sense.
I mean, the Lurid Man at this point is actually more my character.
That's true. He
because
really is.
I think I basically redid almost all of his dialogue.
You did. You have better villains than me.
Well, as you have said, and I'm going to censor this, is that I write better jerks.
You don't have to censor. This is Facebook.
A-holes.
Okay.
Than you do.
Yeah, you do.
That's you said that to me.
Yeah, I did say it to you.
Yes. So I'm just repeating what I write better. Bad people.
I have to. Jacob is a connoisseur of villains, and so I have to run my villains by him because I like writing fun characters, and villains can be fun, but balancing fun with imposing is really hard to do. And a lot of villains that are fun villains to watch are actually pretty incompetent. Oh, Nova's done.
Basically in the first draft of The Wizard's Way, the villains weren't imposing.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel
they were like a fun though.
They were fun, but they were not a credible threat.
Yeah. So
the tension.
Jacob threatified them.
I did. I amped it up.
Yes. I suppose I should actually answer the question now.
Yes,
okay, so the character I relate to most, I would say is Elsa, pretty easily. For those who haven't read the book, Elsa is a young female inventor trying to get her start in electricity. She's one of the, I wouldn't really say pioneers of electricity because she's just starting, but she's one of the few people in her society who are experimenting with it as a serious energy source, as opposed to as just like a parlor trick. And so she's very goal oriented, very project minded, very I don't want to say no nonsense. Because she's a character in The Wizard's Way, but she when she sets her mind to something, she's going to do it. And I think teenage me would have loved her especially because she has exactly zero, well, maybe not exactly zero interest in romance, but she has about 2% interest in romance. And she does like Chauncey, and he obviously likes her, but she's ultimately like she has things that she wants to do, and romance is not one of her primary goals. And so she's just very, very goal oriented, and I really like that about her. She was a fun character to write, and she's also sassy as heck. So there's
that's
most of my characters.
That's most of your characters.
There was a point when I was writing the Wizard Circus where you were like, why are all of your girl characters so sassy? And then I promptly like point to a picture of my mom, picture of my sister, the entire family album, because I have a whole family of sassy pants ladies. And it's like
at which point I suggested that you like have at least one female character
who's not
that wasn't a
bucket of sass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had so many examples.
It's like pull it back, pull it back.
I would say that Elsa is basically like, to a certain extent, she's every woman in my family. To a certain extent, there's not a single woman in my family who has like been told, or who has been told not to do something and then not gone ahead and done it anyway. So,
well, I believe we've answered all the
yes,
questions.
we have. So thank you all for listening, whoever was here. I know we had one or two at least. So yay, our dedicated fans. We will do this again at some point. Before then, of course, will be the Bane Books Facebook Live on the 13th. 13th?
Yes, 13th.
Go to the Bane page. They'll have the official date. I think it's the 13th.
At 8 o'clock.
At 8 p.m. Eastern time. All right. So, yes, thank you again for listening. Wow, we went long. And I don't have a better outro. Bye!
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you again.